You know, there's this word we always reach for when things go wrong. A word that feels solid, like it promises justice and a neat ending. That word is accountability. But what if our entire idea of it is broken? What if instead of fixing problems, it's actually designed to just make them disappear? Today we're going to dig into a pretty radical redesign of accountability itself.
It really does, right? When you hear that someone is being held accountable, there's this satisfying feeling of closure. The messy story gets a clean ending. But what if that very feeling of finality is actually the problem?
And that's the real question, isn't it? Beyond that immediate satisfaction of seeing someone take the fall, what is accountability actually for? What's its purpose? Turns out, the answer is way more complicated than we usually think. So, what is the goal here? Is it about punishing someone? Is it about deterring others from making the same mistake? Or maybe it's just a performance, to reassure all of us that something is being done. Or is the real goal to build a system that won't fail in the exact same way again? See, here's the kicker. A lot of these goals are in direct conflict with each other.
Okay, so to figure out where we need to go, we first have to get a really clear picture of our current system. Let's break down the model we all know so well, this predictable and, as we'll see, deeply flawed cycle.
I mean, we've all seen this play out 100 times. A big failure hits the headlines. The pressure from the media and the public starts to build, and everyone demands a head on a platter. And then, a key person resigns. We all feel like responsibility has been served. But look at that final step. Learning stops. The one person who knows the most about what really went wrong, why the decisions were made, what all the internal pressures were, is now gone.
And this whole process actually has a name: erasure. It's what happens when our idea of accountability basically just functions like hitting a giant reset button. The system loses valuable experience, but it gains a whole lot of caution. We make the huge mistake of thinking that removing a person is the same as removing the problem. But there is a different way. And to find it, we need to look at a field where the stakes are even higher, literally life and death, and where failure isn't treated as an ending, but as the beginning of a process.
Just look at this contrast. In politics, the knee-jerk response to an error is removal and distance. The goal? To get rid of the responsibility. And the big question is always, who is to blame? The result, as we've seen, is the erasure of knowledge. Now, look at how doctors handle it. The response is review and adjustment. The goal is to improve the entire system. And the question isn't who, but what happened. The outcome? They build up safety over time.
And this quote just brilliantly sums up the hidden cost of our political model. Let me say that again because it's so important. You lose competence faster than you gain safety. By immediately firing the person who messed up, we're actually making the system dumber and more likely to repeat the exact same mistakes, just with new people. So, why the huge difference? Well, it's because our political culture tends to treat error like it's a contagion. As soon as a failure happens, everyone's first instinct is to create as much distance as possible. Staying involved looks suspicious, so that clean ending of a resignation becomes the safest move for everyone involved, even if it doesn't actually solve a single thing. All right, so we've seen the problem, this cycle of erasure, and we've seen a better model from the world of medicine. So how do we build on that? Well, this brings us to a whole new model, thinking of accountability as an act of repair. This right here is the fundamental shift in thinking we need. What if taking responsibility didn't mean your involvement was over? What if, instead, it marked the beginning of a much deeper obligation to stick around and see the problem fixed for good? And this leads us to a simple but really powerful principle: repair before removal. What if we just made it the standard expectation that when you're part of a failure, your most important job is to help fix the system that allowed it to happen in the first place?
And look, this isn't a weaker form of accountability. It's actually a much more demanding one. It means the person has to explain what went wrong from their unique viewpoint. It means they have to stay involved in the solution. It means they have to actively help redesign the broken processes, and crucially, make sure it can't happen again. That's a way deeper responsibility than just quietly stepping down.
And this is exactly why this shift in thinking matters so much. Our current system creates just terrible incentives. If the price of admitting you made a mistake is immediate expulsion, well then honesty becomes way too risky. People are going to choose silence every single time. And when they do that, all those valuable early warnings that could prevent a catastrophe, they just dry up. The system ends up selecting for people who are good at surviving, not for people who are good at solving problems.
So what are the real stakes here? This isn't just some philosophical debate. Redesigning accountability has massive, real-world consequences for how we solve our biggest and most complex challenges.
When you get right down to it, we solve big, messy, long-term problems by building institutions that can learn. They need to be able to accumulate memory and experience over time, but they can't do that if every single failure triggers a clean exit that just wipes that memory clean. We need systems that get smarter with every mistake, not ones that are constantly being forced to start from scratch.
So that leaves us with a final and I think really powerful question to think about. If we actually did this, if we redesigned our entire idea of accountability to prioritize learning and repair over blame and exit, what else would change? How would that affect honesty, behavior, and the ability of our institutions to actually solve problems for the long term? That's definitely something worth thinking about.